All right, we're back. It's COMP125. It's week 8, part 4 of our broadcast in summer 2016 semester at Centennial College for client-side web development, JavaScript, right, is what we're doing. All I'm using with this recording, it's a very short recording, and all I want you to do, if you look at the Dropbox, I've included a new lab in the Dropbox called Lab 4, Object-Oriented User, right? And if you look at the details for the lab, really quickly again, let's go back. What I meant to do is when I look at the details for the lab, here, what I want you to do is this. So again, due this Friday at midnight, create a login form that includes a username field, password field, and a login button. You can use Bootstrap for a CSS framework, so you don't have to make your own CSS. It's a separate project, so please don't add this into a mini portfolio or anything else, because it doesn't make sense. Why would you log into your mini portfolio? Doesn't make sense, right? Unless you want to make a secure area or something like that. When the user enters the login form information and presses the login button, create a new user object like we talked about, right? That includes username and password, right? So this is going to be with JavaScript, and you're going to be using the constructor that we just talked about. So what I mean is this type of notation. I fully encourage you, right, in learning this, right, to use the TypeScript playground. Don't do it by hand. This is just practice, right? So all I care about is, let me just take this away for a second. All I care, and you don't have to make getters and setters, by the way, and I'm not asking for any kind of other things. Really, in a nutshell, for the user, instead of local user, we'll call it user here for a second. You can see how it's forming up on the side. And I don't need these getters and setters, but what I would say is use TypeScript to help you, right, just in the playground. You don't have to even have anything installed here, just to help you understand how to write your stuff. Now, this is not correct. This is not what I'm asking for. But you can use TypeScript to help you write your code, right? Why? It cuts down the errors. And in real life, it's what we do. I use TypeScript more often than anything, like I said before, when I build enterprise applications. Or I use ECMAScript 6 syntax right now. I try to stay away, especially when I'm building classes and objects, right? I don't need it for other things. For basic JavaScript functionality, like we've done so far up until today, I don't need it. I don't need TypeScript. Although it does help me do other things. We'll talk about the advantages of using TypeScript for things like jQuery or any other custom library that I download, because it gives me code hinting for those libraries that I don't normally get. All right, that's one thing it does for me. We'll talk about that later. But for now, all I want you to do is create another class. And here's an example that I put up on GitHub. You can use the person class as an example of a way of getting everything you need. I don't need a method, because in your file here that I've asked you for, the instructions, notice all I'm looking for is 2 things, username and password. Those are the properties I need. I don't listen for a method. Take those properties once you create that user and display them to the console, which means you need to know the proper notation to use to display those 2 properties to the console. If you do that, 2%. Okay? I know it sounds simple and small, but that's what labs are. They're just practicing, you know, how to use an object, how to create it. You have to, so you can recognize what it looks like. So when I do a test next week and I go, "What's this?" You're going to say, "Oh, that's a constructor." And you should know the difference between a method and a function. What's the difference? What's the difference between a method and a function in JavaScript? Tell me. A function is a group of code that I can reuse. A method is also a function, but what? What's the difference? A method is tied to an object. I have an object, and I have a method nested inside, a function nested inside. That function is now considered a method. That's it. Everything else the same. Questions around this stuff? Due Friday. Again, it's not that difficult. I would highly recommend, again, two submission details. You do need to have a GitHub link. So make your own GitHub repository. Please name it like this. I'm going to start kind of putting it out there for all my new assignments and everything else. There's reasons for this, which means this is the format that I want you to do. Don't just name it. Please don't give me student ID. That means put your student ID in there. By the way, I've done this before, like your name, and I get your name back, right? So this is your student ID. Your student ID goes in here, right? So what that is, so like whatever, so 3008, whatever it is, you know, whatever your student ID is, right? And then those 3 things, okay? Otherwise, guys and girls, have a great week. And for those people who I'm with C#, I'll see you on Friday. For those people who have with JavaScript, I'll see you next week. Okay, thank you.